Welcome to PP 2612 War and Geography. My name's Dr. Steve Pickering, and if you have any questions at all about the course, please drop me an email at steve.pickering@brunel.ac.uk. Let's get straight down to business. The course is divided into two halves, theory and empirical analysis. The theory part is then divided into two more bits, the theory of geography and geopolitics and the theory of environmental factors and war. So the first half of the course looks like this. After the introduction, we'll look at the history of geography, then the emergence of critical geopolitics. Three strands of critical geopolitics we'll look at are feminist, popular and religious geopolitics. Then, after a feed-forward session to prepare you for your first assignment, we'll look at the theory behind mountains or rugged terrain and war, and finally the theory behind borders, boundaries and war. After the reading week, we'll have the second part of the course, the empirical part. We'll start by looking at how to read scientific articles on conflict. Then we'll look at some of the frameworks which have been used to look at the relationship between war and geography, specifically opportunity and willingness and greed and grievance. Moving beyond the theoretical relationship between geospatial factors and war, we'll actually measure the relationship between mountainous or rugged terrain, forests and resources and war. We'll look at whether climate change can really be linked to conflict, and finally we'll stitch it all together with the analysis of a spatial conflict data grid. Okay, let's take a look at my main aim for this course. 20 years ago, John O'Loughlin said that while political geographers read, absorb and use the theories, methods and perspectives of political scientists, the reverse is not true. Now, I'm a political scientist and I spend much of my time looking at the relationship between geospatial factors and war. So O'Loughlin's words are concerning to me. He's saying that political scientists don't read political geography. So I want to make sure that we don't make the mistake that O'Loughlin is identifying here. To do this, we're going to have to engage with a fundamental question: what is geography? It's going to take much of the course to answer this question, and it's something we'll look at in the seminars. We'll read some real geography literature to do this. Political scientists, such as myself, spend a lot of time looking at war and human conflict. Sometimes we bring geography into our frameworks, yet we very rarely apply actual geographical theory. As such, many analysts looking at the relationship between war and geospatial factors reach dangerous conclusions. Geography as a discipline is very different to politics or history. It's much more rigorous from a methodological perspective, right from the first year of undergraduate study. Geographers they're aware of their dark history, and the discipline goes through periodic existential crises as it tries to figure out its function. As such, it's less sure of itself than politics or history, and is rather less arrogant. When political scientists read geography, they tend to go to the big men, and sometimes one woman, of a certain type of geography. They look to people like Ratzel, Kellen, Semple and Mackinder. We'll look at these too, but we'll need to move beyond them because geography has progressed. We're in a time now when new methods and new data are available. Increasingly, there's an expectation that policy should be evidence-based. As such, we need to pull our socks up and really look empirically at the relationship between geography and war. When people look at geography and war, one particular beastie they like to employ is called geopolitics. As I'm going to make clear throughout this course, we need to be extremely careful whenever we use this term. During the Second World War, Kahneman described geopolitics as being a host of literature ranking from scholarly contributions all the way down to cheap journalistic exploits. What was true in the Second World War is also true today. Kahneman wasn't the only writer during the Second World War to be nervous about the way that geopolitics would distort geography. He said it was dangerous as, under the guise of science or institutional name or academic rank, wholly unsound and uncritical conclusions are set forth that purport to be based on law or reason or trained judgment or the lessons of history. So what? Big deal, you might think. Well, it is a big deal. Geography can be dangerous. It's been used to justify European imperial states, the Lebensraum of Nazi Germany and the Saikatsuken of Showa nationalist Japan. This is because geopolitics, mixing theory with nationalism, served to justify expansionism and war. Today, the term geopolitics is seen by some in the Anglophone world as being a rather neutral term. Yet, as Narangora tells us, it guided the direction of imperial expansion by identifying criteria for selecting those reasons which should be seized by the expanding state as a matter of priority. Geopolitics, as I'm going to try to demonstrate in this course, is far from neutral. Indeed, for some, geography itself is not neutral. A key author who believes that geography is not neutral is Yves Lacoste, who tells us that the problems of geography are not just for geographers, they're for everyone. Lacoste is pivotal in the development of critical approaches to geography. For him, the very purpose of geography is to create war. Lacoste tells us that geographers are aware of this, as geographers have read and shaped the last 100 years of debate. Yet politics authors didn't look at this. They just looked at the foundations of geopolitics. Whether or not you agree with Lacoste's argument that geography exists to make war, one thing I do want you to accept is this. The relationship between war and environmental factors is complex. I'm going to show you some of the ways in which a geographical lens can help us to understand this relationship.